This is the IDP After Show.
We also had questions about Uchenna Nwosu going to Seattle from Los Angeles. He is the player that I'm worried I may be a little too high on as my edge 8 going into 2023. Now, he finished as the edge 9 in 2022, 66 tackles, 9.5 sacks, 10 TFLs, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, 17 games. Tripp, we got everything we wanted from Uchenna Nwosu going from the Chargers to the Seahawks. He always showed promise in Los Angeles, but finally put it together under Pete Carroll and the Seahawks defense. But banking on back-to-back top 12 seasons from a guy who up to last year was unproven, that's a bit of a tricky proposition. Regression, I think, seems likely, just naturally speaking, having a letdown after a breakout season. But I also think this defensive line is ascending as well. You have Draymond Jones in the mix, Derek Hall, Boye Mafe, and Darrell Taylor taking a step forward. Now, barring injury, I don't think Nwosu falls outside the top 24. But of the top 12 guys I have ranked at the edge position, he makes me the most nervous for his ROI because you don't get any kind of discount on this guy right now. He is going as actually you do, DL21. So if you want to scoop up Uchenna Nwosu, you can still get a discount in best ball. But as a top 12 ranked edge for me right now, Tripp, and this is a guy who's actually fallen. I had him in my notes as edge 18, and he has fallen in recent drafts down to DL 21. So you can get a discount on this guy. I'm curious what your temperature is on Uchenna Nwosu.
Yeah, I think I'm right around with some of the numbers you're mentioning. I have him at DL 23, which I feel like is, I feel pretty good about that ranking. Actually, I think I was surprised that there weren't people who had him lower because at Football Guys, his consensus rank is 16. And so you mentioned about him kind of coming into his own. I think he came into his own in the very last half of his rookie contract in this last year with the Chargers, and that's what really earned him the big free agent money in Seattle after that. And he emerged as a really steady force in that defense and played a boatload of snaps, which was not necessarily expected. The Seahawks had not had anybody play that many snaps on the edge in a couple of years anyway. And he goes out there. And so there's a part of me that worries that he's a volume based play and that at 245 or whatever he is, he's not a guy that they really do want to put out there for 800 snaps or 900 snaps as he was last year. And so that's my concern and why I guess I'm a little lower than consensus on him. So I can appreciate why you'd be worried that your ranking is too high. But that being said, I mean, his finish last year was notably higher than that. So I'm building in a discount that really kind of projecting that he will not finish as high as he did last year. He finished as DL9 or in Football Guys ranking last year. So if I have him down at edge 23, I'm obviously low on him. I guess I'm looking at Boye Mafe, like you mentioned, being in a second year. Hopefully he's starting to earn more reps. They draft another edge really in the same range as Mafe this year. Derek Hall was also an early second round pick. And so I think there's room for those guys to play and for Nwosu to still get 800 or 900 snaps. So I could be concerned that I might be too low. I might be selling him short by ranking him so much lower than this last year's finish. So it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, he's an interesting player because sort of like Geno Smith, we hadn't really seen it up till last year, and that Seahawks team provided multiple breakouts for guys. So can he keep it up? We'll see. I'm rooting for Nwosu. We all love this guy here on the IDP show. And if you believed in him like we did last offseason, it paid big dividends. We'll see how 2023 goes. Tripp, who is the first linebacker that makes you a little nervous headed into this season?
Well, I'll start with the guy that I'm higher on, I guess, than Football Guys. It's kind of how I built some of this. Is I looked to see who I was an outlier on relative to my colleagues at Football Guys, and the first one I got is T.J. Edwards is my linebacker 7, and he is the linebacker 26 by consensus football guys. And so I was really curious to dig into, well, why is that exactly? And so the answer isn't Tremaine Edwards. The Tremaine Edwards is in my ranking is down in the 20s, which is similar to where football guys have him. The answer seems to be that the other guys here at the team are higher on the safeties, and I'm lower on the safeties. So they seem to be expecting that the safeties will pile up tackles a lot like they did last year. And I don't see that. I see that we have, Edwards was a very efficient tackler last year, piled up tackles in the Philadelphia system. The Bears did invest in the defensive tackle position to help keep these linebackers clean. They brought in Andrew Billings in free agency, who's nothing to write home about, but he's a space eater in the middle. And they used their second and third round picks on additional defensive tackles. And Justin Jones, no one knows who that is, but he is actually not a terrible NFL player playing the under tackle position for Chicago. So I think that there's reason to believe that TJ Edwards could pile up tackles like Jack Sanborn did last year, and that was pretty successful. So I'm really surprised that my colleagues are so low on him. But I even checked Mike Clay projections from ESPN, and he even has the safeties highly ranked in his projections too. So I worry that I might just be off on this. The only satisfaction I would take is our man John Macri, and I think he has him at 7-2. So I feel okay if Macri says he's 7, then I'm going to have a little more comfort in my ranking.
I'll do you one better. I've got him at LB6.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I am with you, man. It's like Roquan Smith was, the LB1 for IDP in that Chicago defense until he got traded to Baltimore. Still the LB1 for IDP. And then, Jack Sanborn for a stretch there was like the number 1 linebacker in IDP points per game wise. They significantly upgraded that position, at least over Jack Sanborn, with TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds. So I don't know. I'm with you. I would not be looking favorably at the safeties. I think these linebackers who, have had their ups and downs for at least for IDP and for NFL purposes as well. I think these guys are going to eat this year. I've got them both projected very highly, and the market is all in on these linebackers as well. Now, they are a little bit behind where our ranking is. TJ Edwards is LB11 right now, and Tremaine Edmonds is LB18. So at least for Edwards, you can get a little bit of a discount compared to where we have him ranked, but I'm with you. Give me all the Edwards and Tremaine shares that I can get because I think these dudes are going to pile up tackles behind, like you said, a revamped and improved defensive line. But let's talk about a guy that I may be too low on, and that is Jamin Davis, the presumed LB1 for the Washington Commanders. This is admittedly some bias on my end. You'll find a lot of bias. I can't help it in these rankings, Tripp. I'm a human being after all, and I've been burned by a lot of these guys. I flag planted Jamin Davis in 2021, and he pulled that flag out of the ground and stuck it through my heart. But, very important, he finished 2022 strong, almost 1 full point per game better from weeks 10 through 18. He was at 10.56 the first half of the season, 11.5 to finish things out. Now, that corresponded to going from 75% of snaps the first 9 games to 100% of snaps the final 7 games. Now, this is an important caveat here. He did miss week 18 after landing on IR for a knee injury. He had a knee cleanup procedure this offseason. He was limited at the team's offseason activities, but he is expected to be ready for training camp. So there are some injury concerns, but if he is healthy, I think this guy has top 12 in his range of outcomes. He's my LB31 right now. Remember, Cole Holcomb was the LB9, playing 99% of snaps across 16 games. Same head coach and defensive coordinator. Only Cody Barton has been added. Jamin Davis at LB31, Tripp, makes me a little nervous. What say you?
You're nervous you're too low?
I'm nervous I'm too low.
Yeah, I 100% agree. You're too low.
Where do you have him?
I have him at LB 18.
Ooh,
I'm
okay.
much higher. Yeah. And also, this is another player that I'm pretty far off of Football Guys consensus on. The Football Guys consensus has him at 36. And this is another one where I'm absolutely blown away on. And I'm not even that nervous this time. I think the rest of them are wrong. So, like you mentioned, I agree with you that I think he has LB1 in his range of outcomes, and no one is talking about it. The first thing I would say is LB 36 is the reason I think that's wrong is because in my mind, there are about 25 guys every year that we know are full-time players. And those 25 should be the first 25 off the board because they have the high safe floors. It doesn't always work out that way. There are guys like Alex Singleton who managed to put up a ton of tackles without playing full-time. And it's like, well, you just eat it, in my opinion, because you want the safe floor. Alex Singleton had games where he played nothing but special teams last year. That doesn't help you so much in a certain week. And so you take a guy like Davis, he has that safe floor. You know that he's the week in, week out starter. And then there's some team contact situations that absolutely help. You look at last year, like you mentioned, he played full time down the stretch. That was after Cole Holcomb got hurt. And they, at that time, it was also after Derek Forrest broke out. And so they started playing 3 safety looks most of the way. That was their, I don't know if those, I haven't seen the numbers on it, but I feel sure watching them that was their most common package, to show 3 safeties. Davis, they had David Mayo, who was their kind of thumping 2-down thumper in the middle of the defense. And so what did they do this year? They reinforced that model that they became comfortable with down the stretch. They drafted to replace Bobby McCain with Bobby McCain with Quan Martin out of Illinois in their second pick. And then in free agency, they picked up Cody Barton to kind of slight upgrade on the 2-down thumper piece. So I really expect them to come out and run a defense which is pretty similar to what they ran down the stretch last year. And that was a defense where Jamin Davis is getting 9 tackles pretty much every week. And then there's upside on top of that, in my opinion, because this is a defense that ran too high surprisingly often. So you're talking about a linebacker who won't have company on the second level very often. Relatively speaking, with Cody Barton coming off the field for dime sub packages. And then you have a too high structure, which will have more space for Davis to cover. Folks, this guy was a first round pick with premium athleticism just 3 years ago. I've never seen the IDP community just kind of bail on a former first round pick so fast. This is a guy that has a nice high safe floor and has upside to finish as an LB1, and he is going way too low.
He's LB 40 right now. Yeah, LB 40, which is wild.
This was the IDP After Show.